Hello everyone. Today we will talk about the spying news on Turkish citizens abroad. Ihsan YIlmaz from Australia will be joining to us to discuss what is happening. Hello Ihsan Bey, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine. What about you?
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. It is a bit complicated that we're reading news that Turkish officials are spying on dissidents or mainly opponents, mostly Gülenists abroad, outside Turkey. What does this mean actually?
This is not something new and maybe not unique to Turkey, of course. And for decades, Turkish state has simply tried to monitor the activities of dissidents abroad, especially in Europe. And given the fact that there are millions of Turks living in Europe, and many of the recent migrants to Europe from Turkey are either Kurds or Alevis who've been oppressed by the Kemalist state in Turkey. They are, of course, dissidents. So Turkish state has been monitoring their activities. But with the recent developments after Erdogan government has become authoritarian, the Turkish state has increased its activities. And in the past, the mosques that are affiliated with Turkey's Diyanet, which is a government institution and controls all mosques in Turkey. And they have also hundreds of mosques in Europe that are under their control. Turkish state, as far as we know, was not using these imams and preachers in the European Diyanet mosques for monitoring spying activities.
So
maybe
is this not happening through, intelligence agencies? Isn't that a normal intelligence spying on foreign soil? How is it working?
The state has already had this mechanism there, and normally in the Turkish diplomatic posts, the consulates and so on, you would always have one or two Turkish intelligence guys who is working for this purpose. And in most cases, funnily, these guys do not know even the language of the country that are operating in. So mostly they know Turkish because mainly they are just after Turkish dissidents. So this has been the case mostly. But their numbers are not enough. So what the Erdogan government has been doing, in addition to these professional spies, they are also asking other civil servants of the Turkish state, such as imams, to help them, and also NGOs and civilian groups who are pro-government in Turkey. So this amount of intelligence activity, spying activity, is actually unprecedented. So for the first time, Erdogan government actually has mobilized hundreds and maybe thousands of people in Europe to monitor the activities of all its dissidents.
I see. So what is the purpose of this, though? What is the benefit of knowing what people are doing in Europe to Erdogan or his government? Why would you even spend money on this?
Because there is a witch hunt against the Gülen movement, first of all. So the Gülen guys are the main targets for this spying activities, but also this includes Alevis and Kurds who are other dissidents, but mainly and primarily Gülen people, Hizmet movement volunteers abroad are the main targets, because the government has an agenda, Erdogan government has an agenda to simply terminate the movement all over the world. And Erdogan said repeatedly that wherever you go, we will just chase you after, we will come after you, and we will simply crush you. And he has been actually personally visiting many countries to ask the rulers of these countries simply to shut down these terrorist coups and so on. So in Europe especially, he has been trying to simply finish off the movement. So he has to know, of course, and when I say he, the state under his helm, has to know who is actually Gülen guys and what are they doing, where they are, and so on. And this is also used for another aim.
Mm-hmm.
So the relatives of these families back in home, back in Turkey, also are targeted.
I see.
And yeah,
I see.
so when you have these lists, first you know who they are, where they are, and so on. And for the last a few years, actually, Gülen movement participants, especially their prominent ones, were not allowed to visit Turkey. So I know many people who were simply denied entry to Turkey, even though they are Turkish citizens. They denied entry to Turkey, saying that you are a national security threat and so on. But also now, in addition to all these, their families are also targeted because, as you might know, this witch hunt includes not only Gülen movement participants or the guys who were officially working for Gülen movement institutions, journalists, and so on. It also includes the relatives, wives, kids, children, and fathers and mothers of these guys as well. So the movement's participants and also Kurds and Alevis who are opposing Erdogan's authoritarian rule are not only targeted in Europe, but also their families are targeted back home. So Erdogan doesn't have direct influence or force on these dissidents in Europe. But when he has the list of these guys, then if he targets their relatives back in Turkey, then these dissidents would stop their activities in Europe as well. They will be afraid. They will stop working for these schools. They are sending their children to these schools. They will stop doing this. So indirectly, Erdogan will simply harm the movement's operations in Europe.
So, but after all, this is a regular activity. There is nothing wrong with this, is there? With a government trying to know what his citizens are about around the world,
This is illegal everywhere. So, and Turkish government would not allow a Russian spies coming to Turkey and just going after Turkish citizens. So everybody would object to that. That's the problem.
I see. So one last thing, is that anything to do this sort of activities and the capture two Malaysian or the two Turkish opponents or businessmen captured by someone we don't know in Malaysia, for instance? Is this something related to that?
That's the imagined next level, actually. So they tried this in Malaysia because it was easy, because Malaysia also is ruled by some authoritarian corrupt rulers who are happy to work with Erdogan government. They have some business transactional relations and so on. So they were successful there. So they simply handed these Turkish citizens who have been in Malaysia for 10 years, law-abiding, no criminal activity or record, and one of them was the head of a business NGO or business association. Another one was a school principal, as far as I know. They were simply allowed by the Malaysian government to be simply kidnapped by the Turkish government operative spies there. So this is actually what you would hear from the government pundits, pro-AKP Islamist pundits on Turkish TVs every day, saying that, look, we will simply target you, and similar to what the United States did to Osama bin Laden, we will simply shoot you with our missiles. We will one night come and get you out of your bed. So these are the simply ordinary, everyday rhetoric of the government pundits, pro-government media personalities and so on. So after they, of course, make these profiles and so on, they will, of course, go after these guys physically as well and try to harm them. And it is probable that even they can ask them thugs in these countries, paying them a few $100s and so on, just go harm this guy and get a YouTube video and we will give you more. So this is, of course, probable. And this is expected from a government that is becoming increasingly a rogue state. So that doesn't respect international law or treaties, that doesn't respect human rights and so on. And this is not unique to Turkey. As I said, many rogue states have been doing this before. But what is shocking is the fact that Turkey is a member candidate for the European Union, and it is a member of NATO. It is also a member of Council of Europe that happens to have European Court of Human Rights. So despite all these facts, a government has been trying to do all these criminal activities in the Western soils is, of course, shocking.
Is there going to be any sort of trouble just because, like breaching international law for Turkey about this issue, for instance? Is there anything that stops them, or
there is already troubles? We don't need to speak in future tense. Actually, a few years ago, Germany imprisoned several MIT, National Intelligence Organization of Turkey, officials, and one of them, Muhammed Taha Gergerlioğlu, was actually an advisor to President Erdogan as well. So he spent several months in prison, and there are all sorts of criminal spying activities recorded by German intelligence, German judiciary, and they were actually trying to set some plots against Gülen people. And all these were recorded, but unfortunately, after a deal between German government and Turkish government, the German court decided to simply destroy the evidence, and they released these guys. But after Germany's relations with Turkey deteriorated, and at that time German government felt that it had to do this because of the refugee flow, because at that time Erdogan was threatening European countries, saying that I will simply send hundreds and thousands of Syrian refugees to your countries, and because elections are coming, right wing is rising, and these refugee flows are a threat, politically speaking, to these governments. So Angela Merkel had to strike a deal with Erdogan. Unfortunately, this was a political decision, and because Erdogan knows that this can be done, he's been trying to do this again. So let my spies go free, don't touch them, don't harm them, otherwise I will send these refugees. So he's using all these victims of Assad's Syrian regime's oppression as a weapon, human weapon against the West. In addition, what he is also saying or implying that bombs might explode in these Western countries as well. He's not saying it directly, but indirectly he's threatening these countries as well.
I see. Maybe we have talked that in another program. Thank you very much. It was very helpful. It made me understand better what this spying crisis is all about. Thank you very much, Mr. Ihsan.
Thank you.